So welcome to this workshop. So we are here for the validation of the independent evaluation of IFAD's program in Uzbekistan. I am Fidi Johnson, IFAD's country director for Uzbekistan. And before we start, and before I leave the floor to our colleagues from IOE, I would like to acknowledge in the room the presence of representatives from the Ministry of Agriculture. And I think connected are representatives of the Ministry of Investment Promotion, as well as colleagues from the Livestock and Veterinary Committee, if I'm not mistaken. So I also acknowledge that the representative of Uzbekistan to IFAD, FAO, and WFP is connected. And partners from the UN country team, sister IFIs, and other partners. So I think we can start. And I would like to leave the floor to IOE, who has conducted this very important work. And over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Fidi. Good morning to our colleagues in Europe, and good afternoon to our participants in Uzbekistan. A warm welcome also from this side of the world to the Uzbekistan Country Strategy and Program Evaluation virtual workshop. My name is Roxana Sami, and I have the honor and pleasure of being your moderator for this event. We are indeed very fortunate today to have a very high-level government representation for this important event. Allow me to welcome and acknowledge the presence of the Honorable Deputy Minister of Investment and Foreign Trade, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Agriculture, who have carved out time from their very busy schedules to be with us today. Also, a warm welcome to His Excellency Ambassador of Uzbekistan to Italy and the Permanent Representative to FAO, IFAD, and WFP. A warm welcome to IFAD's Director and Deputy Director of the Independent Office of Evaluation, IFAD Regional Director for Near East, North Africa, and Europe, IFAD Country Director, government officials, IFAD colleagues, and partners. At IFAD, we truly look forward to the CSPE events as they provide us an excellent forum to have a candid and constructive exchange and dialogue so that we can together improve the IFAD-funded operations on the ground and bring about the necessary rural transformation. Outcome of these kinds of events are useful for us to finalize the action plans that follow the CSPE recommendations, including the preparation of agreement at completion point. Now, we have an exciting and packed agenda in front of us, so allow me to get a few housekeeping items out of the way. I'm sure after 2 years of Zoom meetings, you've all mastered the ins and outs of Zoom. Just a reminder, should you have an unstable connection, kindly turn off your video. I also wanted to let you know that we are recording the event. I also want to remind the participants that we have interpretation for this event, Russian and English. To use this facility, please click on the interpretation icon on the bottom of your screen and select the desired language channel. Should you wish to take the floor, please use the raise hand function. And before speaking, make sure you have selected the appropriate language channel. So for example, if you're speaking in English, make sure you're on the English channel. Lastly, please speak slowly to allow the interpreters to provide an accurate translation. So with the housekeeping out of the way, I'm going to walk you quickly through the agenda. We'll start by hearing the opening statements by the Honorable Ministers of Investment and Foreign Trade, the Honorable Deputy Minister of Agriculture, and His Excellency, the Ambassador of Uzbekistan to Italy and Permanent Representative to IFAD. This will be followed by a statement from the Director of Independent Office of Evaluation, IFAD Regional Director of Near East, North Africa, and Europe, who will deliver a statement on behalf of IFAD Associate Vice President for Program Management Department. Ms. Simona Soma, our evaluation officer, will then present the findings of the CSPE. We'll then have a panel discussion where government counterparts, our IFI partner, and IFAD colleagues will discuss how they will be internalizing the CSPE findings in the new country strategy. We'll then have a brief Q&A session. You may use the chat feature a function to post your questions. I only kindly ask you to, if you can, please put your questions in English so that it makes it easier for us to field them. The Minister of Investment and Foreign Trade will then, the Deputy Minister of Investment and Foreign Trade will deliver the closing remarks, outlining the way forward for implementing the CSPE recommendations. So with the agenda out of the way, we're going to get going in earnest. It is an honor and pleasure to give the floor to the Honorable Deputy Minister of Investment and Foreign Trade, Mr. Shukarat Bayev, to deliver his opening statements. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for your kind invitation and arranging this very important event. And dear ladies and gentlemen, participants of today's workshop, let me express my sincere gratitude to the Independent Office of Evaluation of IFAD and IFAD Management and staff organization deliverer of this event. Today we are conducting this workshop to discuss main findings and recommendations on our future partnership. For the last years, Uzbekistan economy achieved high performance. We have maintained economic growth in 2021 with GDP growth rate at 7.4%. Recently, we have adopted new strategy of development of New Uzbekistan that focuses on 7 pillars where special attention is paid to sustainable and equitable economic growth, strengthening of social sector. One of the most important tasks of socio-economic reforms of Republic of Uzbekistan is to improve the quality of life of citizens. Implementation of coherent and comprehensive policy in agricultural sector aimed at ensuring food security is one of the important pillars of human capital development. The agricultural sector plays a key role in Uzbekistan's economic growth. Over the years of independence, agriculture policy went through significant changes. Uzbekistan consistently implements a well-thought-out strategy for the development of the industry aimed at ensuring the country's food safety. The adoption of agricultural development strategy of Uzbekistan until 2030 became an important milestone in development of agricultural industry and food security. In this regard, we welcome IFAD's support to Uzbekistan in agricultural development through implementing important projects aimed at facilitating agro-food production value chains. Dear ladies and gentlemen, Uzbekistan takes comprehensive large-scale measures to address climate change and environmental issues. Negative consequences from drying of RLC becoming more and more acute. In order to mitigate the consequences, we need to implement systemic and comprehensive measures to the resolution of United Nations General Assembly on declaring the RLC region as a zone of environmental innovations and technologies. For us, we looked forward of IFAD support in assistance to make serious steps towards transition to the modern principles of green agricultural production. We believe that it will make a worthy contribution to support the government efforts towards modern agriculture. Dear participants of this event, we recognize IFAD as one of our most significant, flexible and responsive development partner, which we very much appreciate and have found extremely valuable in support of agri-food sector of Uzbekistan. We're grateful to IFAD for supporting Uzbekistan in agricultural development through implementing important projects aimed at facilitating agro-food production value chain. IFAD loans work to enable sustainable income growth for rural people through viable small-scale agricultural production and rural enterprise systems. We're interested in further streamlining our cooperation with IFAD in the following important areas. First, improvement rural people's capacity and ability to benefit from high-value agricultural systems. Second, institutional capacity development of key players in agriculture sector. Three, increasing the productive assets and competitiveness of small-scale production entities and rural areas to enhance their participation in markets. Development of operationalization of policies and a regulatory framework enabling the promotion of green investments across the agri-food value chains. And addressing the food security issue through addressing the issue of the land degradation and improvement efficiency of irrigated land. The most important direction of further sustainable and effective development of agriculture in Uzbekistan remains the introduction of innovative agricultural technologies and its equipment with high performance agricultural machinery. As a main direction in our future engagement, we propose to consider IFAD to lead the country platform in agricultural sector. We look forward to expanding our cooperation with IFAD in implementation of our reform agenda through attracting technical assistance and concessional loans. The Minister of Investment and Trade, the Government Office remain at your disposal in developing a new country strategy as well as portfolio of new prospective projects. So during my speech, I tried to give information of our vision for future direction of our cooperation with IFAD, and I believe that the strategy which we will discuss today and the report which we have reviewed will be a very important platform in developing our joint measures in the future to implement our joint projects. And I believe that the huge auditory which are attending to our workshop will share their valuable opinions to discuss, and in the future we will integrate these inputs to our strategy, which will be adopted by the end of this year. I wish for all success and good work during our workshop. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much for those remarks. And thank you very much for also outlining so clearly the vision and also highlighting the partnership that the country of Uzbekistan has had with IFAD. And no doubt that, together with your counterparts on the ground, you will be able to fulfill that mission. A very timely also outline of your strategy. Thank you very much, sir. So it is now my pleasure to give the floor to the Honorable Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Kakaramov Yuldashev, to deliver his opening remarks. Sir, the floor is yours.
Good afternoon, dear ladies and gentlemen. I'm very pleased to monitor and observe our ongoing cooperation between Uzbekistan and IFAD, and I would like to thank IFAD for their constant assistance and ongoing cooperation with Uzbekistan partners. The strategy of the development of agriculture of Uzbekistan until 2030 I think it's within the line of your organization also goes in cooperation with Uzbekistan in order to support agriculture producers in Uzbekistan. The agricultural sector in Uzbekistan is one of the important sectors of the economy. And last year, its share in the GDP was 27%, and almost 3.6 million of population were involved in agriculture, and almost 40% of population, they live in rural areas. I should note that since 2012, the IFAD within the three projects, they invested about $340 million. And it was very beneficial for agricultural sector. As for the country strategy and program evaluation, on our part, we carefully started the the report on the counter strategy and program evaluation, and I think we have still to work on the conclusion on the gaps identified on our mutual cooperation. I think for future projects we should focus on financing most vulnerable parts of the population, and also the requirements for collateral, for example, for the loans allocated by our banks. They will be more simplified, and they will, I think, they will make it more easier to get those loans. As for the collecting the statistics and information, you know, it's also one of part of priority issues in our tasks. We have to create the system or automatic collection of data, and to provide transparency in collection and providing reliable data. And for the future, we hope that in cooperation with IFAD and we will focus also to improving these issues. Currently, we are creating institutional basis for developing agricultural knowledge ledgers, and we are working to create the human the capital to improve the management and consultancy services in this area, and taking the opportunity and relying on your experience, we hope that we will improve the system of dissemination of agricultural knowledges among the appropriate stakeholders. And the ministry is one who will serve in the future as a strategic partner in this collaboration. Regarding this, the pandemic situation with the pandemic, it showed us clearly that the necessity on further strengthening the food security in the sector. And it's also necessary to develop the program and the policies which will give us opportunity to provide more protection to the population, and also to develop further the agriculture sector. Taking this opportunity, I would like to thank to all the partners for preparing the report on counter strategy and the program evaluation. And I wish all the best to all the participants, and thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Your Excellency, and thank you for outlining the various policies that at government level you will be addressing. One which you mentioned was access to financing. And thank you for also mentioning the challenge of data collection, which is something that we'll be talking about shortly. And I think the issue of food security is something very close to IFAD's heart. So your words are music to our ears. So we very much look forward to the conversation that also follows based on your inspiring words and also your expectations. Thank you very much. It is now a pleasure to give the floor to His Excellency Otapek Akbarov, the Ambassador of Uzbekistan in Italy, and also the Permanent Representative to IFAD, to deliver his opening remarks. Sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Good morning, everybody. I'm really grateful to moderator Mrs. Roxana Sami for such an excellent chairing of our today's meeting. I would like to extend our greetings to our Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Yuldashev, and also to greet Mr. Idran Naidu, Director of Independent Office. Also to greet our dear colleague, Regional Director at IFAD, Mrs. Dina Saleh, and of course, Country Director, Mr. Fidi Raja Olson, who, as far as I know, connected to our meeting from Tashkent. And I also see that our meeting today is attended by more than 80 participants. So in my view, it's a very good sign of interest from IFAD towards Uzbekistan and from the independent office towards our country. I would like to express our gratitude for organizing of our today's meeting in this hybrid national workshop, and congratulate for the first detailed country strategy and program evaluation conducted in Uzbekistan. We highly appreciate the statement of our Deputy Minister of Agriculture, Mr. Yuldashev, and also representative of the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Trade, Minister of Investment and Foreign Trade, Mr. Shagazadov. And we as Embassy of Uzbekistan in Rome is fully available and ready to work closely with these two ministries and also with our partners in IFAD to implement all the projects and all the prospects which we have with IFAD. We do agree that close cooperation between our country and IFAD is essential for us to achieve the sustainable development goals, particularly eliminate rural poverty and hunger through supporting small-scale farmers. We highly recognize the results and findings of independent office of evaluations from the performance of IFAD strategy in the period 2011-2020. It obviously generates new ideas and mechanisms for the future enhanced partnership between Uzbekistan and IFAD. The previous strategy responded to important shifts in the agriculture, promoting diversification. It is notable that IFAD was the first international financing institute to provide loan finance to support the horticulture value chain in the country and focused on small-scale farmers. This approach is successfully replicated and scaled up by other partners, such as the World Bank, the Asian Development Bank, and others. We would like to mention that before the embassy relations with IFAD were so-called de facto, we maintained just general communications when it was needed. But now the situation is completely different. We are now officially accredited in IFAD. I'm a permanent representative of Uzbekistan to IFAD, and I have here Deputy Permanent Representative, Mr. Nureddin Kushnazarov, who is a specialist, who arrived from Tashkent, from the Ministry of Agriculture of Uzbekistan, and works closely with me on all the prospects with IFAD and also FAO and the WFP. In this context, I would like to attract your kind attention to the following two very important factors. First, adoption of the agriculture development strategy of Uzbekistan for the period 2020 till 2030, which identifies the priority areas of development in agriculture and rural development in our country. Secondly, President of Uzbekistan, Shavkat Mirziyoyev, adopted resolution and roadmap to expand and strengthen the cooperation with FAO, IFAD, and WFP. Today, our embassy, as I mentioned, officially works as a permanent representation to the IFAD and maintain regular high-level connections and exchanges. Particularly in 2020, Deputy Prime Minister, Minister of Investments and Foreign Trade of Uzbekistan, Mr. Sardor Umurzakov, met virtually with the President of IFAD, Mr. Gilbert Ngbo. Last year in July, in the margins of the UN Food Systems Press Summit in Rome, the Minister of Agriculture of Uzbekistan, Mr. Jamshid Hadjaev, met in person with the President of IFAD and discussed the strengthening of cooperation. The embassy also have had several opportunities to meet with the President and senior officers of IFAD and enrich our dialogue and relations. We would like to mention that Uzbekistan positively received the call made by the President of IFAD on increasing contribution and doubling efforts to confront the current challenges. In this way, our country tripled its voluntary contribution to IFAD 12 and delivered an important message to the IFAD community, encouraging the other members to do so as well. Last month, after the inclusive and broad public discussions, the President of Uzbekistan adopted very important strategic document, which called the Development Strategy of New Uzbekistan for the period 2022-2026. Apparently, this program sets ambitious goals to increase the income of farmers and smallholders by at least 2 times, annual growth of agriculture to at least 5% through productivity, introducing science and innovations, and decrease the poverty by 2 times by addressing a vulnerable population. Independent Office of Evaluation suggests that the IFAD strategy in Uzbekistan over the past 10 years was only moderately satisfactory. However, we believe there is a strong will to improve and move forward and build tailored approaches, leaving no one behind. From the perspective of the permanent representation to IFAD, we are sure that the findings, conclusions, and recommendations of the Independent Office of Evaluation greatly contribute to revisit and redesign the new IFAD's next strategy, COSOP, in Uzbekistan. We fully support the IFAD's decision on enhancing the country presence by opening its office in Uzbekistan, in Tashkent, expanding its programs and mobilizing resources for the projects in our country. We would like to reiterate our gratitude for the great job and wish everybody a successful workshop. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you, Mr. Ambassador, for those words, and thank you for highlighting the expansion of the collaboration and partnership, which is one of the hallmarks of IFAD. And also, thank you for pointing out that Uzbekistan's new strategy actually is going to increase by double the income of farmers, which is, again, another excellent news. And also the ambition to decrease poverty as well. Thank you very much, sir, for those opening remarks. I now kindly ask Indran Naidu, the Director of the Independent Office of Evaluation, to share his expectation of the event and set the stage for what will follow. Indran, over to you.
Distinguished representatives of the Government of Uzbekistan, representatives of IFAD, partner institutions, and international organizations, ladies and gentlemen. It is my pleasure to be part of this virtual national workshop organized by the Independent Office of Evaluation of IFAD in collaboration with the Government of Uzbekistan and the Near East, North Africa, Europe, and Central Asia Division of IFAD. The workshop follows the finalization of the Independent Country Strategy and Program Evaluation in Uzbekistan and provides an opportunity to share and discuss the main findings and recommendations with the government, IFAD, and other stakeholders and partners. I would like to start by expressing my appreciation to the Government of Uzbekistan and to the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Trade, Ministry of Agriculture, and executing agencies for the collaboration on this evaluation. Our appreciation goes to the project teams and partner organizations for sharing insights, supporting field visits, and patience in responding to numerous requests for data and information from the evaluation team. I would also like to recognize the support of the IFAD Program Management Department, in particular Mr. Donald Brown, Associate Vice President, who cannot be here with us today but may join later, Ms. Dina Sela, Regional Director of IFAD's Near East, North Africa, and Europe Division, Mr. Fide Rajasthan, IFAD Country Director for Uzbekistan. Finally, I would like to thank the evaluation team led by Ms. Simona Soma, Lead Evaluation Officer, who was ably supported by a team of national and international consultants. Ms. Daniela Esprella, Evaluation Assistant, provided efficient administrative support to the team and to the organization of today's event. Ladies and gentlemen, this was the first independent country strategy and program evaluation in Uzbekistan. The objective of this evaluation were to assess the results and performance of the IFAD finance strategy and program since 2011 and provide findings, lessons, and recommendations to inform the next IFAD country strategy and the future partnership between IFAD and government. Let me now highlight a few key findings from the evaluation, while Ms. Simona Sommer will deliver a more comprehensive presentation later. Agriculture has been and continues to be an engine of economic growth in Uzbekistan. Yet, access to finance, production infrastructure, extension services, and value chains remain limited, particularly for the poorest smallholders, the Deccan farmers. Social development is strengthening, yet there is great gender inequality and growing rural unemployment, as well as increasing environmental threats from climate change. Against this background, the partnership between IFAD and the government is more pertinent than ever to make rural economy more inclusive and sustainable and support the country in achieving rural transformation. In this regard, the evaluation found that IFAD's support in promoting rural development was aligned with the country needs and priorities and will continue to be relevant for Uzbekistan given the persistent disparities in living standards between urban and rural areas and the effects of the global pandemic, which is creating additional financing needs. On the other hand, the evaluation pointed to some areas that deserve attention. Firstly, the CSPE found that IFAD's targeting strategy was not sufficiently tailored to the needs of the different beneficiary groups, including the poorest smallholders, the Deccan farmers. Secondly, IFAD's weak program support and limited interactions with in-country partners during the review period affected results and the potential of policy dialogue. Lastly, I would like to focus on the importance of monitoring, measuring, and evaluating the results of agricultural activities in Uzbekistan. A robust monitoring and evaluation system is essential to gather evidence of what works, what does not work, and how to course correct and improve projects and programs moving forward. The evaluation found that the M&E system is weak, and this affected the availability of evidence of results, knowledge generation, and the capacity of IFAD to unlock the potential for learning to promote innovation and scaling up and influence policy dialogue. In this regard, it is my sincere hope that this evaluation will offer the ground to enhance the capacity of the country level to monitor, collect, analyze, and transform data into knowledge that can inform policy making. We look forward to support the government of Uzbekistan in this endeavor through the Global Evaluation Initiative, the new compact network, which brings in major international and regional capacity. I will be happy to bring this conversation forward with IFAD and the government of Uzbekistan in the coming weeks. I thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much, Indran, for highlighting so eloquently the challenges, but also the opportunities. And no doubt we shall be discussing these in what will follow shortly. May I now ask Dina Saleh, the IFAD Regional Director for Near East, North Africa, and Europe, to deliver this statement on behalf of Donald Brown, IFAD's Associate Vice President for Program Management Department. No doubt this statement will also provide us strategic guidance for future interventions and strategies in Uzbekistan. Dina, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Roxana. Excellency, Mr. Shuhrat Vafayev, Deputy Minister of Investments and Foreign Trade. Excellency, Mr. Kahraman Yuldashev, Deputy Minister of Agriculture. Excellency, Mr. Otabek Akbarov, Ambassador and Representative of Uzbekistan to the United Nations Rome-based agencies. Distinguished participants, dear colleagues, it is my great pleasure to convey a statement on behalf of Mr. Donald Brown, the Associate Vice President of Program Management Department of IFAD, and IFAD Management for the validation workshop of the Uzbekistan Country Strategy and Program Evaluation. As you have heard, my name is Dina Saleh. I am the Regional Director of the Near East, North Africa, and Europe Division. Let me first start by thanking above all the government of the Republic of Uzbekistan, but also the Independent Office of Evaluation of IFAD for successfully conducting and concluding this evaluation, despite the challenges that were brought on by the COVID-19 pandemic. Since joining IFAD in 2011, Uzbekistan has been an important partner. The fund has approved 3 rural development programs amounting to $435 million US dollars, including leveraging 200 million of World Bank parallel financing, with IFAD's own core investments of $130 million. This reflects both government's substantial contribution and ownership, as well as the increasingly strong partnership between IFAD and Uzbekistan. As acknowledged by the evaluation, IFAD responded to the historical policy shift towards agricultural diversification by pioneering support to the horticulture and dairy subsectors. With an overall country program aiming at directly and indirectly benefiting close to 500,000 rural people, IFAD has targeted the small-scale producers and Deccan farmers, as well as rural women and youth. The completed horticultural support project has exceeded its outreach target by 50%, reaching in total over 100,000 people, with the objectives to increase agricultural outputs, improve assets of value chain actors, and generate incomes for the target groups. Building on the lessons learned from this initial investment, the 2 ongoing projects continue to introduce innovative approaches such as climate resilient rural infrastructure, support to the multi-stakeholder platforms, and strengthening of market linkages. The evaluation gives us an opportunity to take stock of the IFAD country program in Uzbekistan, draw lessons from the experience, and as we move forward, adjust to the weaknesses and build on the successes in the context of the rapidly evolving context of Uzbekistan. And this is also leaning back to what our fellow director Indran mentioned, that this is a timely opportunity for us to really build on these lessons. The evaluation acknowledges the relevance of the country program in supporting the contribution of small-scale producers and Deccan farmers, women and youth, to the development of commercially viable businesses and the revitalization of the rural economy. Management appreciates the recommendations provided by this evaluation and recognizes the need for stronger focus on areas such as knowledge management, partnership development, and policy engagement. Furthermore, management concurs with the assessment and the recommendations of the evaluation to continue embedding targeting strategies at the core of IFAD's intervention, and to invest in robust monitoring and evaluation systems, and to enhance the program management support. In fact, this evaluation comes at the right time. The findings and lessons will inform the upcoming design of the new country strategic opportunities program, or what we normally refer to IFAD as COSOP. The COSOP will take as its starting point the Government of Uzbekistan's priorities for the rural sector set out in the Agri-Food Development Strategy 2020-2030, as well as the new Uzbekistan Strategy 2022-2026, in particular, the goals of doubling farmers' income and reducing poverty. Management would also like to recognize the government's commitment to sustainable and inclusive food systems as reflected in Uzbekistan's National Food Systems Pathway towards 2030. Under the IFAD 12 financing cycle, which we just started actually this year, the new country strategy will offer opportunities for continued engagement through a menu of financial instruments and non-lending activities. For instance, there will be opportunities to access additional funds through the new borrowed resources access mechanism and dedicated funding to increase climate resilience, but also opportunities to work with the new private sector window and explore new implementation modalities such as the programmatic approach. This enhanced business model offers solid grounds for strong alignment and partnership opportunities in the next 6 years. Excellencies, distinguished participants, ladies and gentlemen, allow me to conclude by commending the commitment of the Government of Uzbekistan to strengthening the partnership with IFAD. The historical increase of Uzbekistan's replenishment contribution will help IFAD to double its impact on the Sustainable Development Goal 1 of no poverty and SDG 2 of zero hunger, and effectively improve climate resilience of rural people across the world. Moreover, management believes that IFAD's country presence in Uzbekistan will be an additional step to forge stronger partnerships, leverage on its proximity, and better serve beneficiaries. Let me close by expressing the hope that together we will use this evaluation to build a more relevant, effective, and efficient IFAD country program that ultimately delivers the best possible development impact for the rural people of Uzbekistan. And with that, I thank you.
Thank you very much, Dina, for that eloquent statement. And I think you have outlined all the ingredients for a relevant, effective, and efficient country strategy, which dovetails with the priorities of Uzbekistan. And we're going to have a little bit more time to discuss this in a little bit. Okay, I would like to now ask Simona to share the key findings of the CSPE. Simona, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much, Roxanne. Before I start my presentation, I also would like to personally thank the Government of Uzbekistan and our colleagues in the regional division, in particular, Mr. Bernard Hien and Mr. Fidira Johnson, that were really available and really collaborative throughout the evaluation. So I really appreciated that approach. Okay, let's now move to the presentation of IFAD country strategy and program evaluation in the Republic of Uzbekistan. As the director of the Independent Evaluation Office of Evaluation said, this is the first CSPE, country strategy and program evaluation, that IOE conducted in the country. It covered 10 years and the findings of this evaluation are based on the assessment of the learning portfolio. The COSOP, we have only one COSOP covering the period, which was designed in 2017 and covered 4 years. What we called non-lending activities, which are activities that complement the investments, knowledge management, the partnership building, and policy dialogue. And finally, the performance of partners, which are IFAD and the government. The lending portfolio comprised 3 investments for a total of $128 million, covering the main areas of horticulture and livestock production, rural finance, and value chain development. Next, please. In terms of methodology, we applied a COVID-sensitive methodology. The evaluation was conducted in 2021. International travels were not allowed. So most of the evaluation was conducted remotely. We had extensive interviews with national authorities, with local authorities, with the beneficiaries. The evaluation applied a mixed methods approach. So it combined qualitative and quantitative tools and analysis, traditional and innovative methods, which supported the triangulation of findings and in the end, the robustness of the evaluation findings. We managed to conduct field visits. Of course, we could not travel from Rome directly, but we had the support of 3 excellent national experts that traveled to some of the provinces covered by the 3 investments. Next, please. We will now move to the key findings of the evaluation, so to the core of this presentation. Next slide, please. So the next few slides present the key findings of the evaluation, and I will start by highlighting the areas of strength, which were actually already highlighted by the introductory remarks of the government of Uzbekistan and of the regional director. So in first place, in the absence of a country strategy until 2017, the development strategy pursued by IFAD responded to important shifts in agriculture policies that were supported by the government towards promoting a more diversified and sustainable sector. There was no doubt that IFAD was the first international financial institution to provide the loan finance to horticulture value chain. IFAD championed as well the direct support to the Deccan farmers, which are recognized as the most vulnerable group in Uzbekistan. And this confirms that IFAD is covering a very important niche in Uzbekistan, which reflects its comparative advantage with smallholder, while other international financial institutions are actually targeting larger businesses. So this social targeting approach of IFAD was, given the Uzbek setting, very innovative, because it was targeting the Deccan farmers, but not only, also women, and later on, especially with the most recent project, youth. Please, next slide. Along the same lines, the geographic targeting has been fairly successful because it was based on poverty levels, on the potential of the sectors, as well as on the guidance by the government. The focus are designed of IFAD's operations on the value chain approach, which was combined with rural finance and capacity building, and had an overall very important proper focus, was very relevant. In terms of results on the ground, we noticed some contribution to enhanced access to rural finance services, capacity building, and also an increase in production, especially with the first 2 operations, the horticulture support project and the dairy support project. Next, please. Let me now move to the areas of improvement moving forward, which will connect the next couple of slides to the recommendations of the evaluation. So there are 2 factors that constrained the assessment of results and program implementation. First, the absence of an effective data collection and monitoring system. This made challenging for the evaluation to verify and assess the contribution of IFAD's country strategy to results on the ground. The second factor is the disconnect between the design documents prepared by IFAD and the feasibility studies prepared by the government, which in practice guided implementation. This disconnect affected in a way the coherence of the country program and constrained implementation and results. Let me provide an example. The focus that I was mentioning earlier on value chain, on proper value chains, that was the core of the design of IFAD projects, translated during implementation into production-focused operations. So the focus on trainings, on technical assistance, on the provision of rural finance has been mainly on production without clearly linking the various elements of the value chain approach. Along the same lines, the attention to gender, the attention to knowledge management, the attention to monitoring and evaluation, which were elements that were present in the design of IFAD's operation, was lost during implementation. This also caused some disbursement and implementation delays. And both of these factors, the absence of an M&E system and this disconnect, affected also the targeting strategy during implementation. This is because not only we were not able to say whether the poorest were actually reached because of the absence of data, but also because during implementation, the activities were not very much tailored to the needs of the poorest. The government mentioned in its introductory remarks the collaterals. Actually, the collaterals were one of the constraints that limited the participation of the Deccan farmers and of women in IFAD's activities. Final point relates to the geographic and sectoral focus, which changed from one project to the other. As I said, this responded to a specific request by the government, yet it did not allow IFAD's projects to build on experience, to consolidate results, and to actually fully develop the value chain approach planned at design, which would have required some more time to, for example, emphasize issues such as processing, packaging, marketing, which are very important for value chain development. Next slide, please. Now, in this slide, I will move to a more strategic level. The evaluation found that the internal coherence and strategic orientation of the 2017 COSOP of the country strategy was overall weak. The strategy did not really build on the complementarity between the lending and non-lending program, and did not provide concrete mechanisms for program monitoring. Overall, the evaluation highlights that there were very little efforts that went into knowledge management, and this was a missed opportunity because knowledge management to formally document, disseminate the results of the projects is fundamental to unlock learning, innovation, scaling up, and ultimately to inform policy dialogue. And in fact, we found insufficient evidence of direct links to the most recent policies, to IFAD policy dialogue efforts. Along the same lines, the potential for partnerships, including and in particular with the private sector, remains untapped. Final point, which somehow constrained the continuity and the partnership and country level policy dialogue was the high turnover of staff from both IFAD and the government sides. Next, please. So in summary, the evaluation provides 4 key conclusions that point to the strategic areas that should be revisited, that should be enhanced moving forward to reinforce the partnership between IFAD and the government. Number 1, as I said at the beginning, the targeting strategy focusing on the poorest was indeed relevant because the Deccan farmers are the key drivers of horticulture and livestock production, and targeting them is fundamental to reduce poverty and to develop the rural sector. However, the targeting strategy during implementation was not very much tailored to the needs of the beneficiary groups. The second conclusion relates to the shifting of the geographic and sector targeting, which actually constrained the opportunity to consolidate results and build on experience. Third point third conclusion concerns the lack of a solid monitoring and evaluation system. And finally, the weak program support and limited interactions with country partners during the review period affected results and the potential of policy dialogue. These four conclusions correspond to 4 key recommendations which are contained in the report and in the last slide of my presentation. So recommendation number 1, the evaluation recommends that effective targeting strategies should be at the core of the new COSOP in order to reach the poorest, which include the Deccans, but also women and youth. Recommendation number 2 concerns the need for developing a viable action plan for non-lending activities in the context of the new country strategy, which IFAD will prepare soon. The new country strategy shall look at opportunities to engage with the private sector, for example, through public-private partnerships, and to consolidate the results achieved until now. Recommendation number 3 concerns the monitoring and evaluation systems. We heard the director of the Independent Office of Evaluation, Mr. Naidu, highlighting this point, which is of utmost importance to provide the evidence of results and to course correct. And in order to do this, there will be a strong need for capacity building at the country level and to provide through also technical assistance. Recommendation number 4 focuses on enhanced country presence, enhanced country support, in particular through adequate human and financial resources and less staff rotation from both IFAD and the government. I'll stop there. I thank you very much for your attention, and I'll give the floor back to our moderator, Roxana. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Simona. I think your presentation has very well set the stage for what I hope will be a lively and inspiring conversation. Now, we are truly lucky to have a high-level government representation along with also some of our key partners underground, Asian Development Bank, but I also know that we have other colleagues from FAO, UNDP who are also participating, and IFAD colleagues for this panel discussion that will follow. May I ask the audience to pose their questions in the chat box? So we will field your questions at the end of the panel discussion. And just a reminder, if you could please use, if you could type in your questions in English, that would really be helpful. Now, a warm welcome to our panelists, Mr. Oybek Shagazov, the head of the Department for Cooperation with IFIs, the Ministry of Investments and Foreign Trade, Mr. Alisher Shukurov, the advisor to the Minister on Economics, Innovation, Development and Investments, Mr. Enrico Pinali, the Deputy Country Director for Uzbekistan of the Asian Development Bank, Ms. Dina Saleh, IFAD Regional Director for Near East, North Africa and Europe, Mr. Fabrizio Felloni, the Deputy Director of the Independent Office of Evaluation, and Mr. Fidi Rajanson, IFAD Country Director for Uzbekistan. So colleagues, we just heard the inspiring words from the deputy ministers, from the ambassador, from Indran and from Donald, and also Simona's eloquent summary of the CSPE findings. I'm gonna kick us off with a question to Fidi, who I'm sure is now super inspired and looking forward to take on board the findings of the CSPE. So Fidi, my question to you is, what steps you will be taking to address the recommendations that Simona just outlined? And may I remind everybody that to keep your answers to 3 minutes, I don't want to use my moderator, let's say, prerogative to interrupt you. So please try and be as concise as possible so that we get as many interventions as possible. So Fidi, over to you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
So thanks a lot, Roxana and Simona for the very clear presentation. So we fully agree that achieving long-lasting impact for rural transformation requires a combination of operational performance and a continuous alignment of strategies. So if you allow me, I will start with the operational level, because I think that the evaluation really highlights key challenges. But I'm also happy to tell you that we are already implementing some of the recommendations, because the new institutional setup for the sector really brought very positive changes already. So now I can really say that we have a proactive portfolio management together with the national entities that are supervising IFAD-funded programs. And here I'm talking about the State Committee for Veterinary Services and Livestock and the International Center under the Ministry of Agriculture. I can also say that targeting strategies will be fully embedded in project implementation. For instance, the 2 ongoing projects will enhance monitoring of criteria for inclusive rural finance. So this is very new. The PMUs will fully exercise their oversight function over participating financial institutions so that they can make sure, together with IFAD, that the funds really reaches the intended beneficiaries and ultimately reaching the most vulnerable population. In addition, both ongoing projects have dedicated gender specialists on board. So for example, for the livestock development project, 48% of total beneficiaries that have been reached so far are women. On monitoring and evaluation, this is also a key area, and it is receiving dedicated support through training, capacity building, and dedicated implementation support. A robust outcome survey is being finalized for the livestock value chain project, and there is an M&E system that is being built together with the PMU for the diversification and modernization project. And I would like here to also highlight one point that Simona shared with us. It is that feasibility studies and other project documents are being aligned to serve as a single point of reference for project implementation. And this is very important. And I would like to commend the effort of the government in this direction. Now, at the strategic level, the recommendations of this evaluation, especially on non-lending activities, partnership development, and policy dialogue, will be the guiding principles for the formulation of the new country strategy. So I think that over the past 10 years, we have learned a lot, because there is a need to translate the long-term vision for the rural sector into a framework of action and also results. The formulation of the country strategy will start next month with rounds of consultation with all stakeholders. So the formulation of the strategy will be a fully participatory and inclusive exercise, and I'm really insisting on this. So the new country strategy will be aligned with sector strategies and policies, but also the national goals that really set out a new path for Uzbekistan. And I can say that it really provides very clear and measurable goals to improve farmers' income and reduce poverty. So overall, during the next financing cycle, Uzbekistan will have access to the full range of IFAD's menu of intervention. And for me, this is a great opportunity to really embed our partnership in the long-term vision and really to build on the lessons learned from this evaluation. So finally, as part of IFAD's decentralization agenda, the establishment of an IFAD presence in Uzbekistan will really greatly help fully deploy the strategy. This will be essential for enhanced policy dialogue and active partnership to assemble development finance, co-financing, climate financing, and private sector partnership. So to me, this is a very important moment to reflect and also to take note so that we can have throughout 2022 a fruitful formulation of the new strategy. I thank you.
Thank you very much, Fidi, for such a clear roadmap, and also for highlighting, one of the perhaps unwavering principles, which is being inclusive. Thank you very much for that. Now, building on what Fidi just said, I want to turn to Mr. Shukurov and ask you if you could please share with us what actions will the government be taking to involve small-scale producers so that Uzbekistan can build a robust, inclusive, and sustainable food system.
Hello? Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I would like to congratulate, first of all, IFAD with the successful completion of the country evaluation, as well as the project team, all stakeholders who contributed in this very important exercise. So on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture, I would like to share with you the question related with our plans to support the smallholders in the agri-food system. And here, first I would like to highlight that our strategy, agri-food strategy 2020-2030, explicitly recognizes that the smallholders is the priority for the government, for the sector, and we recognize that smallholders, they contribute significantly for the food security of the country. And just figures, more than 80% of the livestock production is coming from the smallholders, and more than 50–60% of the horticulture production coming also from the smallholders. This is indeed a really significant amount, and we can value how the smallholders, they are important entire in the agri-food system. So, and what is the measures now government is taking and will take in the future to support more in a sustainable way the smallholders? They get attention, they are supported from the government. Just a few examples that, of course, we have ongoing support system through the National Association of Farmers and Dehqan Farmers, which we have a dedicated fund to provide incentives to the smallholders. But the question is it enough? Of course, it's not enough. And one example that during the pandemic, we understood that smallholders, they needed more attention than any time before. So government dedicated $30 million additional support to the fund of the farmers associations to provide the support during the pandemic. This was the great example, demonstration that government really moving ahead with the more support to the smallholders. However, still we are facing that existing resources coming from the IFADs. We are significantly providing support to the bigger and the medium-sized enterprises, but still we're struggling with the challenges with the sustainable system to support the smallholders. In this respect, now, we have launched the new program to support the smallholders, and with the support of the EU, particular program, the budget support, now we have commitment that from the 2023 government budget will ensure dedicated specific line to support the smallholders. This is the indicator already we have set up, and from starting 2023, we will have a specific budget line to support the smallholders through different means, subsidies, technical assistance, and further. Practically, we have already started preparation and piloting this practice with the support of EU funding in the 5 selected regions to provide technical assistance to the smallholders and the small cooperatives. So this is now underway, and until 2023, we will have first results will be available, and the smallholder support scheme, investment scheme, will be more ready to support and approved by the government. So this is the important step. I think we will launch it in this area. And of course, in this area, we need further capacity development. We need further work together with IFAD. And today you correctly mentioned we have different other partners are participating. We look forward together to work in this important area. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much. And I think everybody welcomes your pledge and your commitment to further support the smallholder farmers so that you can actually build a sustainable food system. Now, building on what Mr. Shukarov just right now outlined, I want to turn to Mr. Pinati from the Asian Development Bank and ask you if you could please share some good practices and lessons learned and your own experience from investment in rural sector so that, you know, collectively we can also learn from your extensive work. Over to you, sir.
Yeah, first of all, I will say good afternoon from Tashkent. I'm happy to see many familiar faces here, both at IFAD and in the government. As you rightly pointed out, ADB has been quite involved in the sector. We have extensive programs both in livestock and horticulture, as well as we have a very interesting pipeline now of new projects being worked out. Now, maybe to highlight a few results, I think what has been very successful is you know, we know that the horticulture is a very good sector for job generation. What I really would like to highlight how not only the numbers, but also is a gender-friendly type of operation where we have about 40% of the new employment generated, the targeted and was generated with women. Some of the good practices, I think, definitely, at least for us, has been the capacity building, as of course, IFAD is also doing. But with the financial institution, I think it was very important to provide both the soft skills on the environmental assessment as well as on the credit skills for the PFIs. I think that's quite important, but probably not as important as the soft skills that we have given to the smallholders, to the farmers, especially, you know, in growing of fruits and vegetable practices, as well as you know, the capacity building for the storage and processing of these goods. Now, what are I would like also to maybe work out some of the challenges, because I think even I believe Simone in the report highlighted some of the supply chain that are always a challenge, because you want to try to graduate this farmer and give him put him in a positive cycle of supply and quality of goods. So I think that's where we would like to get more work done on improving this logistics, whether it's just you know, food safety and quality, but also you know, storage, certification, shipping, and other market entry type of assistance. Now, one other thing, and I would like to highlight here, I have a good story where, for instance, we had a smallholder which started with the loan, the agro loans, and then we were able to somewhat to graduate it, put him in the chain of one of the retailers, which now we finance with our non-sovereign window. So we have a good story of how to accompany some of these smallholders into the supply chain. Of course, you know, we cannot force this thing to happen, but we can definitely try to help them be put in a condition to now have a quality products that can go in up the supply chain and in the value chain and go into the retail distribution. Now, I see some challenges. Maybe I would like to also highlight to summarize a little bit the intervention is I think, we're in a transition now where, of course, my colleagues in the government, especially in MIFT and the Ministry of Agriculture, know that we're moving to more and more private sector development, more and more, or say less borrowing from the state and more incentives to have the PFIs and other market players take their own commercial financing. So one of the things you have to remember that the financial sector here poses still quite a few challenges, including the high cost of funds and the fact that you still have a lot of lending which is collateral based. And these, in this transition that we try to accompany Uzbekistan into more commercial market practices, remain quite a bit of challenges that we need to be able to face together. Maybe a final point, and again, I go back to Mr. Shukurov. We are now working on a possible TA, actually it's approved already, on a TA to introduce private sector participation in agriculture. And this hopefully will give us some idea and some projects where we can have create some more commercial viability of the whole industry and chains, starting from the beginning where we have the inclusion of the smallholders into the purchasing of retailers and other similar buyers. So I think we have I would say a good successful development story, but we also have quite a bit of challenges because we are trying to accompany the country toward this more and more market economic principle. And this will be a good work ahead for all of us as international development partners.
Thank you very much. And thank you for sharing that very inspiring story. Now, before going to Mr. Shakasov, I know that we have other UN and IFI colleagues. So I was just wondering whether there was anybody from UNDP, FAO, or other partners who may wish to just briefly come in and talk to the point that Mr. Pinali just highlighted. So I just give a few seconds if there's anybody who would like to take the floor. Okay, if not, I'm going to go to Mr. Shakasov. Sir, you just heard FIDI outlining IFAD's game plan to address the CSPE recommendation and how your other government colleagues will be engaging with small scale producers. And I think it is fair to say that we all agree, and this was highlighted both by Mr. Naidu and also by Ms. Saleh, that partnerships are one of the foundations of a successful development intervention. Now, as someone in charge of coordinating and spearheading partnerships with other IFIs, my question to you is, what are the areas that government and IFAD need to improve on to further enhance partnerships, bearing in mind also IFAD's specificity?
Thank you very much, Ms. Sami, for comments. Actually, we agree with the recommendations because they're very timely recommendations for improve the project implementation process, which are done with IFAD, and it will be very helpful in managing our future projects in the framework of the IFAD strategy. First of all, regarding recommendation number 1, effective targeting strategies. So it's very important because proper value chains, if we address and about the small farmers, which the result of the projects will be high, and we should take into account whereas developing feasibility studies, which will be financed by IFAD. Regarding this recommendation second, I think that we should also pay high attention for non-lending activities and also bring private sector to implement projects in agricultural sector within cooperation with IFAD. We also propose to develop capacity, develop actions of key players in agricultural sector, and we fully agree with the recommendation 2, where we should develop our approach more broadly for secure successful implementation of projects. Regarding number recommendation 3, IFAD's country strategy should devote to attention and monitoring and evaluation systems. I would like to bring all attention of all today's participants that recently we established an agency for international cooperation and development. It's under our ministry, which will play important coordinating and standard setting and excellence center role at every stage of project cycle, including identification, prioritization, project appraisal, results-focused design, procurement implementation, and post-implementation assessment. So we will pay high attention for effective conducting of monitoring and evaluation system, and this agency will be very helpful to secure the successful preparation as well as implementation of the projects. Also, we would like to add here that with some IFIs, we develop our approach for the project preparation, including development of feasibility study and tender documents before signing of the loan agreements. So by the time we are signing loan agreements, at least 30–40% of procurement are already ready to sign contract, and the disbursement rates will be more higher. And so it can be important for timely implementation and keep all deadlines within the project. Also, we would like to add that opening of the IFAD office in Uzbekistan will enable to deliver a monitoring and evaluation with the support with this agency. And I believe that local office of IFAD in Uzbekistan will be very helpful in securing high level of monitoring and evaluation. At the same time, we would like to add that IFAD's main scope is agriculture, and I believe that all attendees are aware that Uzbekistan is conducting country platform with international financial institutions, and we kindly propose and we think that IFAD could be successfully lead country platform on agricultural issues, and it will be very helpful to secure coherent actions and cooperation in implementing agricultural project with other financial institutions and development partners. Thank you very much.
Thank you, sir, for outlining those very concrete actions and responding to the various recommendations of the CSPE. I'm sure the concerned parties will take those into account. I just want to remind our audience that you can ask your questions in the chat box. Now, moving on, as highlighted both by Mr. Naidu and also by Ms. Soma, one of the CSPE's recommendations is the need to strengthen data collection and monitoring and evaluation system at country level. So I want to ask Mr. Shukarov if you could please tell us, sir, how you intend to build the national data collection and monitoring capacity.
Thank you. Indeed, evaluation, one of the, I think, critical recommendation of the evaluation team was the importance or the issues related with the data collection and the M&E system. So we, as the Ministry of Agriculture, we emphasize this challenge, and this is, I would like to brief you that a question, an issue, not only with the IFAD related projects. We recognize that we face the challenges with different other projects. And now our colleague from MIFT mentioned, Mr. Sagazatov, that the new institutional setup now in the country is underway, is already established. The agency of international cooperation and development under the MIFT is now really closely working with the Ministry of Agriculture in terms of the establishing robot system in the M&E system, all projects at national level. At the same time, Ministry of Agriculture as a technical dedicated agency and responsible for the project implementation, we have also now the new instrument that established a new International Center for Strategic Development and Research. So, and in this institutional setup, one of the priority and critical area is to shift and to improve the M&A system along all projects which we are implementing under the Ministry of Agriculture. And our intention is that we are now establishing a system, not only project-based, but program-based, linking with the agriculture development strategy, which we have clear indicators until 2020 and until 2030. So this is the way that we will shift the and also establish the M&A system and a robust M&A system, which will give us very effective information, data, as well as we can see the progress of the projects, how it is contributing to the strategy of agri-food development. And of course, in this regard, we are really calling now our partners. All partners, we have now more than 21 partners which we're implementing joint projects to come together and to work together to build this M&A system, at the same time to provide us as the national implementing agency with the capacity development, best practices, how really we can integrate these practices into this new M&A system. And we believe that already this effort will be completed during this year. I mean, at least we will have a clear system in place on the M&A related work in our ministry. So this is the plan, and I believe that this is the good benefit for both, first of all, for the country to see the progress, at the same time with our development partners, how really we can jointly move ahead with the ongoing projects, as well as with the future projects, how really we can plan the future projects. So thanks so much.
Thank you very much for clearly outlining both the challenges and the opportunities to build this national data collection and monitoring capacity. I'm sure Simona and her colleagues will be looking forward the next time they have to do an evaluation to be able to benefit from the data that you've collected and from the monitoring capacity that you've developed. Okay, I want to now go to Ms. Saleh, the IFAD Regional Director for Near East and North Africa and Europe, and ask you, Dina. Dina, you just heard from our government colleagues how they're planning to strengthen partnership with IFAD, their plans to strengthen their M&E system, their data collection, and also their plans for building an inclusive and sustainable food system. So I want to ask you, with all of this in mind, and from where you sit, can you share with us your vision for IFAD's engagement in Uzbekistan and in the region for the coming years?
Okay, thank you, Roxanne. Very interesting dialogue going on. So first, let me start by saying that you know, I think we're fully on board with many of the suggestions and ideas that have been put forward by my esteemed colleagues. But to also inform and reassure the government that Uzbekistan is a priority country for IFAD. You know, and in terms of financing, if we just consider the amount of financing that has been allocated to Uzbekistan portfolio, right now it's almost a third of the investment that we have for the region. And when I talk about my region, it's Near East, North Africa, and Europe. Uzbekistan has the third largest allocation, in addition to, of course, in the sub-region being one of the, you know, having the highest allocations, as well as being the best performer in terms of disbursement. So when I heard one of my colleagues saying they want to increase the disbursements even more, I was wondering, okay, how much more are we going to go? But anyway, you are the best performer now. So let me first touch upon the point that was just made by Mr. Shukurov on the on the results and data collection. I think in terms of setting out what our objectives would be is to say that in terms of development results, we have new guidelines, we have new procedures now put in place in IFAD for measuring results and impact. And we have geared up all our, our instruments towards ensuring a very robust data collection systems. We also have, very specific targeting requirements and measurements so that we can ensure that, we have more precise reporting. As you were also indicating, it would be very important for us to now also use some of these tools that are available and being made available by IFAD to enhance the data collection. So quality of the impact and measuring results will be key for us. Having said that, a close monitoring of the portfolio, as we have heard from our colleagues in the Independent Office of Evaluation, right now we're lagging behind on many critical aspects, especially on targeting. But IFAD is also, as part of its innovations and part of what it's introducing now going forward, that through these innovations, we are also looking at precision targeting through artificial intelligence. So this is also something I think Uzbekistan, being a forerunner in many of the already interventions we're having, it would be very useful for us to also apply some of these tools. So you asked me about the engagement and vision. So good news is after a decade of operation in Uzbekistan, I think now we all recognize and appreciate the value added that we bring, and also the potential for us to really reach the impact for small scale producers. So we will continue investing in the rural people of Uzbekistan. That's our core mandate in IFAD, focusing of course on increasing returns to farmers, raising their income, improving their competitiveness, and making them more productive and resilient to shocks. I mean, we are witnessing multiple shocks as we continue, to address the shocks of the pandemic, but also many other shocks, climate shocks that are there, always challenging the smallholder producers. We will therefore build on our strengths to focus on climate adaptation and climate mitigation, but we will also continue building on the experience that we have already had in Uzbekistan, which is in the horticulture and livestock sectors. But we stand ready also to explore new areas for investment. And if I list for you some of the areas that we would, particularly find appropriate are, of course, the climate resilient infrastructure for better management of water, better management of soils, and of course, when we talk of water, we talk also of irrigation. Nutrition sensitive agriculture, again, we think this is a priority area that we feel would be important to also focus on. And this would also go very well with the whole targeting criteria that we feel will need to be enhanced. Agro-processing and marketing capacity of farmers. We heard earlier that this is going to be an area to really invest on building capacities, and I think is in line with the government strategy. But one area that IFAD is particularly keen on, and as we move on to, into IFAD 12, is really innovations and digital solutions. So what I'm thinking about are things such as e-commerce platforms and blockchain technologies, which can also help us as well in the quality, bringing about quality control, but an area where the youth, where we could attract the youth really to get involved in agriculture and rural development. Sustainable pasture management is also another area where we have had experiences, but we feel could really benefit our engagement in Uzbekistan, especially in the livestock sector. And along the value chain, we shouldn't only look at production. We also need to focus also on the post-production, and therefore are looking at post-harvest, post-harvest losses and food waste. This is also part of the whole food systems package as we know it. So we also need to give attention to those areas, because I know that in many countries, we tend to overlook this aspect of food loss and post-harvest losses. We know in many countries it is up to 30–40% of the production that is wasted. So really, I think this is an area that we could also focus on. And as I said earlier, sort of accessing to export markets, and this is all part of the whole processing as well, and value enhancement. For instance, via the promotion of organic and certified agriculture products is an area that IFAD has experience, and we would like to venture into that with our colleagues and partners in Uzbekistan. And we cannot do this without linking with agriculture research and extension services to farmers. So if we cannot do that if this is missing. So therefore, we think these are really important priority areas for us to focus on. And if I may, in my sort of last sort of points that I'm thinking about, IFAD's engagement will also be about contributing actively to policy dialogue and helping rural people, which is half of the population, to remain at the center of the transformation of the economy so that they're not left behind. For instance, in the recent years, IFAD has started to engage in initiatives such as the G20 country platforms, for which Uzbekistan is a pilot, and to bring rural development at the forefront of the global agenda for development financing. Finally, and we all recognize the dynamic reform agenda in Uzbekistan, this is a great opportunity and conducive to exploring new ways of working. And as I mentioned earlier, the innovative practices, IFAD has now an ICT 4D agenda with digital monitoring and evaluation systems, which can help us, as I said, to improve monitoring of results more efficiently, but also to disseminate. This is a whole knowledge management, disseminating the outcomes and impacts of IFI projects to policymakers. So there are other evidence and data initiatives that can be explored, such as the 50 by 2030 with the World Bank and FAO, which for strengthening local institutions for data production and use. Finally, IFAD cannot do this alone. So we will continue to build on the strong partnerships so that we can deliver a transformative country program. And we count on the COSOP actually as we go forward, where all these points we hope will be duly taken into account and will help us to address also past weaknesses. Thank you, and back to you, Roxy.
Thank you very much, Dina, for articulating so clearly what promises to be a long-term engagement in Uzbekistan, and also, underscoring the importance of investing in rural people, but also at the same time embracing digital solutions and in such a way making agriculture attractive to the youth. Now, I want to direct the last question to Fabrizio Felloni, the Deputy Director of the Independent Office of Evaluation, so that he also can tell us about the importance of data collection and also talk about what are the next steps to close this evaluation process. And in doing so, outline how the Independent Office of Evaluation is instrumental in development effectiveness. Fabrizio, over to you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity to speak. I hope you can hear me. And I will just address the question by saying that, first of all evaluations are oriented to improve effectiveness of programs. So that's the first concern that they have. And the idea is that through the findings and by learning from the past experience and the present experience, they can help orient the future based on facts. That's why also facts and data are so important to evaluation, because they need to be evidence-based. The specific case of a country program evaluation is a very good vantage point, because it allows us to look not just at the single project not just a short time of implementation, but a long period and a whole portfolio. So we can look at typically at 10 years or even more of implementation experience in a country. And we don't just look at individual projects, but we also look at the strategy. So not just, which is more than just the summation of elements of the portfolio. So that's the big advantage that we have in a country program evaluation. And by that, we're also able to look at systemic issues and not just individual project issues. That's why they can be useful. And as an example, the issue of monitoring evaluation, which has been also highlighted very well by the national authorities today at the workshop, the importance of M&E, and we're very glad to see that there is a strong willingness to improve the system. And we have noted that this is certainly an area for improvement, and there are also initiatives at the global level, such as the global evaluation initiatives, that can also help with that. But again, the importance, as I said, on evaluation of this type is that it helps define also IFAD, the government define the new strategy and look at systemically what can be improved in their collaboration. In this spirit, we also have a specific tool for country strategy and program evaluation, which is called the agreement at completion point. This agreement, it is an agreement which is made between the government and the program management of IFAD, so IFAD management, and it's an agreement on how they intend to implement the recommendations of evaluations. So we formulate a number of recommendations. So now the government and IFAD together jointly can decide on how to implement them, and they can also formalize it and sign it. It's an instrument which is useful because it highlights the importance of partnership between IFAD and the government in all that they do in a country. So the next steps would be, as I said, for government and for IFAD to prepare an agreement and completion point, which will also be annexed to the new strategy, the new COSOP, when the same is presented to the executive board for discussion. So again, importance of action orientation of an evaluation and leading to a new strategy, and also hopefully to strengthen operations in the country. So thank you for your attention.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Fabrizio. Okay, we do have a question, which I think I'm going to ask Fidi if he could please take it. So the question is, within the priority areas that were mentioned, this is Rusan Gil would like to ask if there's anything specific planned to the Aral Sea region. So Fidi, you want to take this one?
Thank you very much, Roxy, and thanks, Lucian, for the very good question. So actually, this question gives me the opportunity to highlight the next steps for the strategy formulation, because the area of intervention will also be discussed as part of this consultation. So the COSOP, so the new country strategy, will be presented at the executive board of IFAD in December, so at the end of the year. So we have a retro planning that we have agreed with the government that will start actually next month. So we will have a series of consultations, starting with a kickoff workshop, and then a series of exchanges remotely, also in country, visits to the field, and so forth. And we'll have a series of validations. So for me, it's very important to embed the next financing program that IFAD will have with Uzbekistan in this discussion. We've heard from colleagues the benefits of a programmatic approach, and I think this will also guide the type of M&E system that we put in place and the results framework for the strategy, as well as the location of the investments. This is one point. A second point. It is also that that the areas and the priorities will be discussed. There will be a strategic framework, strategic objectives to be agreed upon, and this will really guide the next programming cycle. So for me, the main point is that we have a consultative process, that we have also development partners fully taking part in this discussion, and that we can save the date and really work together. I would like to really highlight the excellent collaboration that we've had in the past months with national entities. I think that this really building a very solid ground for further engagement. So I will stop here, but I'm really encouraged by this workshop. I think that this is really launching a very good moment of reflection and then of action and investment. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Fidi. I also want to thank our colleagues Bernard and Isabel, who also put substantive comments in the chat box. And Isabel, thank you very much also for highlighting that the Uzbekistan projects are benefiting from the IFAD Resolve grant financing for training program and to build management capacity, especially in the area of M&E and KM. So this brings us to a close of the panel discussion. I really want to thank very much our great panelists for an engaging, lively and an informative conversation. As Fidi said, you know, this is the beginning of a bigger thing that will be happening shortly in Uzbekistan with the new country, with the new COSOP. And also, as Dina highlighted, you know, the long-term strategy. So it is now my pleasure to give the floor to our colleagues from the Ministry of Investment and Foreign Trade to deliver the closing remarks and also to chart out the way forward. The floor is yours, sir. So if I could ask, sir, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much for active participation of all participants during this very important workshop. I believe that findings and very valuable opinions of the participants will be very helpful to further formulate the strategy and integrate these findings to our new strategy with IFAD. And I believe that it will serve a good platform in the future for developing the new ways of beneficial cooperation. And on behalf of our ministry, I would like to express my sincere gratitude for all participants, their valuable time they allocated for this event and their active participation. And I believe that this workshop will be very helpful to develop our cooperation with IFAD and also bring other partners for development of agricultural sector. And I wish for all success, and let's keep communication. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thanks a lot for those words. This brings us to a close. I hope you found the conversation informative, inspiring, and actionable. And as Fabrizio just mentioned, the government and IFAD will be finalizing the agreement at completion point. I wish to thank the Honorable Deputy Ministers, Mr. Ambassador, the government officials, and IFAD colleagues and partners for making time to join us this afternoon. And I believe that everyone in this virtual room is looking forward to implement the various recommendations, the various ideas and innovations that we heard, so that together we can ensure a sound and robust country strategy for Uzbekistan. Thank you all for your time and have a wonderful day.
Thank you.
Goodbye, thank you.